The advice you've always heard about growing on YouTube, you know, the SEO optimization and making sure that your videos are answering questions that people are typing into the search bar, it might not be quite as helpful as you think. Or at the very least, it's not the whole picture. Now, I really will be the first to say that YouTube is all about slow and steady organic growth. But there are some strategies, and ones that I've recently implemented myself, that can help accelerate that growth if you know how to use them. So in today's video, I'm going to share some of the secrets that I use to take my YouTube channel from regularly receiving anywhere between like 3,000 and 5,000 views per video back in like March and April of this year to now consistently getting over 10,000 views and very frequently getting a lot more than that. Honestly, I've learned these tips in the past few months and I implemented them kind of on faith, like not fully being convinced that it was gonna work, but like it's worked. And so I want to share them with you. Okay, so the usual advice that you get about growing a YouTube channel is all about SEO and search, right? And it's true, YouTube is a really effective search platform. Like it's part of the largest search engine in the world. A lot of people do come to YouTube with their questions, wanting to learn something new. And it's true that targeting search terms and FAQs in your niche can really start to bring in a slow but steady trickle of views to your channel. But here's the problem with only focusing your YouTube efforts on targeting search traffic. Just using my own channel as an example, over half of the traffic that comes to my YouTube videos is not from YouTube search. And I've heard more generally, that I don't have a specific stat on this, that over like 80% or something of all YouTube traffic is not from search. So basically, if you only focus on keywords and SEO and answering FAQs, then you're kind of limiting yourself to that like 20%-ish mark of potential YouTube traffic. Because if you just think about it, not all YouTube users come to the platform simply to search for something. Like I know personally, I don't spend a lot of time searching unless I'm looking for, you know, a review on a piece of tech that I'm thinking of buying, or I'm looking for, you know, meal inspiration. So I search like easy vegan meal ideas or whatever. But most of the time, what I'm doing on YouTube is actually browsing the homepage. And that is definitely the case for most YouTube users as well. Here's the thing, targeting search is not going to be the way to go viral. It's going to be the way to slowly and steadily reach your target audience who's interested in your expertise. But if you want to see faster growth, you need to get your videos in front of the eyeballs of people who would be interested in your content, but maybe don't know that they need it yet. And the best way to do that is through the YouTube homepage and suggested videos. Basically, if you can get YouTube to recommend your video on the homepage, that is the absolute key to getting more views, reaching a new audience, and gaining subscribers. And when this happens, like you can really tell, because recently I had a video where I was talking about why you should start a YouTube channel really blow up. Like seriously, this got way more views within the first week than I am at all used to getting. Just to give you the actual stats, let's just quickly look. I have a place in Notion where I track my video views within the first 7 days because I'm working on increasing that. Okay, yeah, so some of my recent videos here, why everyone is doing their makeup and reels all of a sudden, about 4,000 views within the first week. The best and worst new Instagram features in 2022, about 7,000 views in the first week. And why you need to start a YouTube channel, 43,000 views in the first week. Obviously, the YouTube homepage was helping me out with that. Also because I got a lot of comments of people being like, so glad YouTube recommended you to me or whatever. So you can really see that the power the YouTube homepage can have if you're able to get your video recommended to people's homepages. Just a very, very quick primer on how this works in case you're not familiar with the YouTube algorithm, but essentially the YouTube homepage works the same way any other kind of recommendation algorithm on social media works, in that YouTube will take your video, they'll test it with an initial small audience to see what the click-through rate on your title and thumbnail are and what the watch time of your video is, to kind of get a sense of how interesting and engaging your video is. If you have a good click-through rate and you have good watch time, then YouTube will again push your video to even a larger test group and again see what the click-through rate looks like, what the watch time looks like. And if you kind of keep having good metrics in both of those areas, then your video will get pushed to more and more home pages. It's like the same way how on Instagram, if your content initially gets a lot of engagement, it'll be shown to more people. That's just how these recommendation algorithms work. Okay, so knowing that allows us to be strategic about the videos we're making so that we can target having a high click-through rate and a good watch time rate so that we will get more views and therefore more subscribers. So here's basically a summary of all this homepage stuff that I've just been talking about. Basically, in order to reach more people, grow your audience, get more subscribers, you need to get on the homepage. To get on the homepage, you need to have a high click-through rate, a high watch time, and ideally also a high watch session time, which I'll explain in a minute. When you have good metrics in all of those areas, YouTube will push your videos out to more people. Okay, so that's cool, but like, how do we do that? With all that technical explanation out of the way, I can finally get into what I promised in the title of this video, and that is what is working on YouTube in 2022. So we're gonna talk about the strategies that can help you have good metrics in all of those areas. Okay, so the first and arguably most important metric that we need to focus on is click-through rate, because basically if you can't get people to click on your videos, you're not gonna get them to watch till the end because they didn't even click on it. Having a high click-through rate really comes down to two things: an effective title and thumbnail. In my opinion, this is the biggest mindset shift when it comes to switching from creating for search traffic to switching to creating for homepage traffic. And that is because you want to write your titles differently. Now, this was a really big adjustment for me because I have been so committed to the SEO game for so long. I always checked all of my titles in TubeBuddy. I would make them as long as possible to stuff as many keywords in there as I could. But when I switched to targeting homepage traffic and started writing different titles, I was kind of scared to do it, but it really paid off. So for example, instead of writing your title like a keyword stuffed blog post heading, you want to write it more like a newspaper headline. So here's a comparison for you. Instead of something like how to grow your podcast Instagram in 2022, best tips for growing a podcast page, maybe you would make the title, "This is why your podcast page isn't growing on Instagram," or "The method that got me 10K new followers this month." You can see how these last two titles aren't exactly the kind of thing that people are going to search. More likely they would search something more like the first example, like how to grow a podcast page on Instagram, but you're not gonna attract as many people from the homepage with a really long and convoluted title like that. Instead, if you have a title that's punchy, curiosity inducing, makes people like kind of question and think, well, what is the way, to get 10K new followers or whatever, that is going to be way more effective. So really start thinking about how you can change your titles to something that is a little bit more curiosity inducing, a little bit more like, what's she talking about? Because that is going to really, really improve your click-through rate. Because here's the thing, with those search-based titles, the click-through rate, it'll be fine, but it's only going to be high with people that are specifically looking for that. Whereas these more spicy headlines are going to attract people even who hadn't thought that they might want to know about that. In addition to writing your titles in a more intriguing way, you also really want to focus on designing effective thumbnails. My general rule for this is whatever text you're going to include on your thumbnail, make it different from the title. Your thumbnail is like your second chance at grabbing people's attention, so don't just duplicate the exact same sentiment of your title in your thumbnail. Think about how you can add additional curiosity or get people intrigued in a different way. Maybe some examples would be helpful to illustrate this. Okay, so for example, the video that I mentioned before, the best and worst new Instagram features in 2022, I think this is an effective title because I kind of tease that there's also worst features, and I think people are like, oh yeah, what's wrong? What's going on? And then in the thumbnail, I literally put, not again Instagram, even more updates. So I think that kind of plays into people's frustrations with Instagram and how there's always new features. And it kind of implies that there's a little bit of a dark side, a little bit of a negative side to these features, and I think that makes people curious. I think one of my really effective thumbnails recently is for this video that I mentioned before about why you need to start a YouTube channel. So that title I think actually plays quite effectively into being curiosity inducing, but also pretty good in SEO. So the full title is why you need to start a YouTube channel, not an Instagram. And then the thumbnail literally says, Instagram, start a YouTube channel. And I think that's a really strong statement, and it just makes people curious. Another one of my really effective videos lately, the title was Reels Are Changing, Instagram Insights Review, May 2022. That's kind of like a longer title, but I think the first part is what's most important. Reels are changing. People are kind of like, oh, you know, to what? Like, what's the difference? And then my thumbnail was like, stop making these reels, and then they don't get views anymore. So viewers are naturally like, well, what kind of reels should I stop making? So hopefully that gives you a sense of how the title and thumbnail can really play off of each other to create curiosity, kind of generate mystery, create some intrigue, and kind of tee up what your video is going to be about. And like I said, I was really nervous to lean into this because I was afraid that a title like Reels Are Changing was not going to work well in search. And that's true. Like, it probably wouldn't show up in search because nobody's searching that. But it did make the viewers who saw it either in their subscription box or in their recommended or in the suggested videos really intrigued, and it made them click. And therefore, it made YouTube show it to more people. Once you start implementing these strategies for a little bit, you're going to want to watch and see what works and then replicate it. You'll notice that I've had a few thumbnail styles that have worked well for me lately, and so I just keep using them. And, you know, that's not a bad thing because it also creates brand consistency. Like, I think the arched text and the kind of colors in my background are a signature of my brand. And obviously, if it works, keep on using it. Okay, the second metric that I mentioned before, watch time. This is also very important. You really don't want to put all this work into getting somebody to click on your video for them to only watch it for 30 seconds and then bail. Because YouTube is not going to recommend videos to a larger audience if those videos are not even being watched. The last thing you want is for someone to go on your video, watch like 10 seconds, and then close the tab, because that kind of signals to YouTube that you are someone that gets people off of their website, and they want people to stay on their website. So it's really important that you just keep your video pacey. You really like add as much value and information into a short period of time as possible. Maybe you include different B-roll, different graphics, different titles, different scenes to kind of shake things up and keep it quick. Basically, you just really want to avoid being boring. And I know that sounds harsh, but you really got to work to keep people's attention. Any non-essential information, cut it. Except for, I will say, it's okay to throw in a little bit of personality here and there, but try to keep that personality to like 15 seconds or less. Like, make sure the rest of the video is important to what people clicked on it for. I think it's also really important to watch time, that you have a short intro that really grabs the viewer's attention. It plays off of what you teed up in the title and thumbnail. In terms of your YouTube video as a whole, you really want to think about it like a story that you're telling, and the title and thumbnail are like the first sentence, and then the intro of the video is like the second sentence. Like, I think a big mistake a lot of people make is they repeat the exact same thing that their title or thumbnail promise. So as if I started this video being like, today I'm going to share with you what works on YouTube in 2022. But I didn't. Instead, I started with talking about, oh, you might have heard this, and it actually doesn't work. Basically, your viewer has already seen the title. You don't need to repeat it to them. If you do, it's just gonna feel a little bit boring. Basically, if you want more watch time, keep the pace going, keep it interesting, and only include what's important. Okay, and finally, I also mentioned that session time is important to the performance of your video in the YouTube algorithm. So let me explain what that is. Essentially, YouTube doesn't only track how long somebody watches your video for, but they also track how long they stay on YouTube in general after they clicked on one of your videos. So let's say you watch this video, but then after this, you watch something that I include in the end screen, or maybe you watch something that's in the suggested videos. That is all going to count towards the session time that this video generated. Or if you're watching this video because I linked it at the end of another video, then that will kind of count towards the session time of that video. How exactly YouTube measures this is not totally clear, and it's also not really important, but the point is YouTube wants its creators to keep viewers on the platform, because the longer people spend on the platform, the more ads they watch, the more money YouTube makes. So basically, you want to avoid the ultimate YouTube algorithm sin, which is getting people to exit YouTube entirely after watching your video. So as straightforward as it might seem to say, this is what works on YouTube in 2022, get your videos on the homepage. Obviously, it takes a lot of practice and experimentation to figure out what strategies are gonna work for you and your audience. So it just takes time. Start trying out those thumbnails, titles, making your videos more engaging, and see how it works for you. If you are thinking of starting a YouTube channel, but maybe you're not 100% convinced yet, then check out this video I made that I referenced throughout this video of why you should start a YouTube channel and not an Instagram. First of all, I explain why YouTube's an awesome platform, but second of all, this video did perform really well for me, so you could maybe check it out as an example and think about like, why was this so effective and what strategies from that video can you use in your own to hopefully see similar results? Because that's what I do all the time. I watch other creators' videos and I think about like, what did they do so well that like I could do too? So go check out that video. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you're having adventures and following your dreams, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.